university called Uplift. And I was on the board of directors for that for like 6 years. And so I brought a group of kids from Florida, Central Florida, all the way to Searcy, Arkansas. And we got there a day before the camp so that we could go to a place called Heber Springs. I used to think it was called Hebrew Springs, but it's called Heber Springs. Somebody in the back knows what it is. And so they could jump off of giant rocks into water you can't see the bottom of. Not me. We're getting up 45 feet, and they're like, woohoo! Splash. And I'm like, I'm standing for 45 minutes in front of the 6-foot dive, going, I don't know if I can do it. One girl that I call my daughter because she lived with me for her high school years, and when I did her wedding for her and her husband, she said, no one's walking me down the aisle because you get both the honors. That was pretty amazing, right? But she's treading water because she's a lifeguard in Heber Springs saying, jump, just jump. But I'm like, you're going to get tired of treading water because I ain't jumping. I have this fear of water that I can't see the bottom of, you know? And you get ready for stuff, and it's like sometimes it takes a long time to get your heart ready for things. What God wants us to do as people who are unbreakable is to be ready for what He's calling us to always. It's so easy to say no. So I remember, maybe your parents do this to you, but when I was a kid, I would say to my dad, hey, tomorrow, Dad, can I go to my friend's house? And then he would give me this weird answer. You say, I'm going to be tired tomorrow. I'm like, you're going to be tired tomorrow? How do you know you're going to be tired tomorrow? I'm like, this is a weird answer. Then I have a child, and she's like, hey, can I go to my friend's house? And I'm like, I'm going to be tired next week. You want to go? This dead room, right? Okay, you just had dinner. Okay, we get into this thing where we're like, we're not ready for stuff. We're not ready for anything. We give excuses for everything, and you're not ready sometimes until you just go and do. Here's the passage we're going to look at tonight: 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 15. But in your hearts, revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you, to give the reason for the hope that you have, but do this with gentleness and respect. When I was in college in West Virginia, I remember my wife and I both worked at Burger King. I almost said McDonald's. I've never worked at McDonald's. We worked at Burger King, and I was like, every time there was a truck that came in, it seemed like I was the one that had to take everything off the truck and put it in the freezer and pull everything out of the fridge and freezer and put the stuff. It was like I was the stock boy, even though I had a tag, y'all, that said guest service expert. So what does guest service have to do with stocking? They're like, no, you're husky, you're going. That's the term for giant. Okay. And so I would go and I would stock this fridge. And so when I'm back there, I'm singing because I was in a singing group and we traveled on the weekend, and so I was always practicing my songs. I'm back in there, just singing the song, and the manager came in one time because I'm back there just getting my praise on, you know what I'm saying, and she says, hey, they can hear you. I was like, who can hear me? Like the customers can hear you. And I was like, well, do they know the song? Maybe we can join in or something. I'm ready all the time for a lot of things. Are you ready for when God says it's your turn to say something? It's your turn to explain yourself. Be ready. That's what I want you guys to know. An unbreakable person is ready to give an answer every time when someone looks at you funny. Why are you okay? When bad things are happening, we should be the calmest people in the world. You remember the story when Jesus was in the boat and they were getting tossed and with all the winds and the waves. Remember what Jesus was doing when the disciples were panicking? What was Jesus doing? Sleeping. Like some of you are trying to do in the middle of this sermon. Okay. It's late, right? You had the food and you're tired. But listen, he's falling asleep. Why is he falling asleep? because he doesn't care about his disciples. He doesn't worry about this wind and the wave. This is why he fell asleep. He knew why he was there, and he knew he wasn't going to die on that boat. See, he knew his purpose. Do you know your purpose? And are you ready to give the answers that God is calling you? And what we have to do is be people who speak the truth. But there's this really crazy question right now in our world, and it's what is truth, right? Everybody's like, well, that's true to me. That can't be. Does that make sense to you guys that two things can be true about the same thing? You're like, I don't know, maybe. And and we think this is a brand new question. Youth ministers all the time. They're like, oh man, we're studying, this world. Look what it's coming to. People don't even know what's true anymore. Look at this example. Jesus is talking to a man named Pilate. And let's look at this passage. Jesus answered, you say that I am a king. In fact, the reason I was born and came into this world is to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me. What is truth? Retorted Pilate. Pilate's answer is, what is truth? What's real? How many of y'all have ever been to Ripley's Believe It or Not? You ever been to one of those places? Okay, I went to one in St. Augustine, Florida. My wife and I were on our vacation. This is BC, before children. You know what I'm saying? And so we're walking around in this thing, and everything in there's like, a little unbelievable, right? If you've seen it. Who had said they've seen it? In there? Yeah, there's some crazy things in there, right? You're like, I don't believe it, right? Then they go to this mirror, y'all. I'm standing in front of this mirror, and they're playing videos of all the things people can do with their tongue. Like, can anybody roll their tongue? And that was just a noise. I don't know what that was. And you could curl your tongue. Some people can do this weird thing where it's like a cauliflower, or I'm not cauliflower, but like a, what is it called? A clover. Thank you. That's weird. So you see this video in Ripley's Believe It or Not, and there's this giant mirror. So I'm right there, and I'm trying to do everything I see in that video, and I'm like, right in front of this giant mirror, and I'm like, forget it. And I walk to the right as you follow the little arrows, and you go and you see a couple more exhibits, and you walk through this cool tunnel, and then you come to this area, and you find out for the very first time that on the other side of that mirror it's a two-way mirror, and you get to watch the other people sticking their tongue out at the mirror at you. And so I'm realizing that when I'm walking out, these little kids are like, ah, and they're laughing at me. They were on the other side. I'm on there going, look like a moron. Or look like a Patriots fan or something. I don't know. Come on, everybody hates the Patriots, right? Okay. I made the joke a few weeks ago. I told my friend, I was like, man, I'm worried that you have COVID. He said, why? And I said, well, you got a Patriots jersey on. You've lost your sense of taste. And any Patriots fans in the room? All right. COVID's here. Right. But what we need to really do is we need to be able to give an answer. Ready to answer. What do we got to answer? I'm going to say this. You don't have to have a book, chapter, and verse answer for everything that everybody asks you. Sometimes the answer is just saying, I don't know, but I'm going to ask somebody. But the answer is always in your walk. Like you can tell someone by their walk. Like I do something really weird with my hands when I'm preaching and I walk. I don't know how to explain it. I said this at our church, and everybody started laughing when I said that phrase because they've been watching me for 3 years. When I get excited about a point, I'm like I'm Scooby doing it. I'm like, it's a weird thing. If you watch it in fast forward, I look like I'm breakdancing, or like, oh man, that's a new TikTok move or something. I don't know. It's weird. but you have a gait, like that's how you walk. And so, you can know that somebody walks a certain way, and you're like, oh, I know who that is. And the reason I say that is because you know Peter and John were preaching to the Sanhedrin once, and they heard them preach, and here's what they said: we can tell that you are unschooled, unlearned, but we can also tell that you have been with Jesus by the way that you talk, by the way that you answer these questions. You need to be ready. And he said in that same verse that we looked at already once, let's look at it one more time. In 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 15, he says, always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you, to give the reason for the hope that you have. Like, why are you okay right now? Everything's going bad. Why are you okay? Why? Because I don't have any fear. They can't threaten me with heaven, right? Remember that? Like, why am I not afraid? Why am I just like, how can I run into the storm? Like a firefighter runs into a burning building and you're like, how can you do that? You know how they could do that? Because they spent hours and hours and weeks and months training to be able to do that very thing. They got themselves ready. They had the equipment. They knew what they were doing. They knew what to look for. So they had no fear as they ran into a burning building because they knew that running into that building meant that they had possibility of carrying someone out. And if you're looking at your life right now, you need to be ready. You need to be getting yourself firm, standing firm in your faith, so that when people are in this trouble and this distress, that you're able to run into that situation without fear because you're ready. You're prepared. You have the equipment. You know that greater is He that lives in you, is greater than he that is in the world. You're standing firm on your faith. You know you have the answer to the world's problem, and that answer is Jesus. Y'all hear me? All right, this is what our walk is all about. There's nothing else. The answer is Jesus. Remember that's the answer our youth minister cringes at when he's like, okay, what do you think about that? Jesus. You're like, you answer. I say that, maybe I'll be right. This is the answer. He said, I want you to be ready for the answer to why you have joy. Why are you so happy? The problem is we tend to be just as sad as the rest of the world. Guys, we don't have a reason to be sad. You don't have like, it doesn't matter what's going on because I know where my faith is. My faith is not in my stuff. If my faith is in the things that I own and my house burns down, my faith is destroyed. If my faith is in my health being great and then my health deteriorates and I'm worried about dying, then my faith is destroyed. It's my faith in my relationship with my family or my children or my brothers and sisters or my parents. And if it's all in that, then if those things crumble, then my faith is destroyed. And we go back to what we heard last night, where it's like if you don't hate, which means love less, if everybody else isn't down on the list and God isn't first, if He's not the most important thing, then we've messed up the list because our joy doesn't come from this world. It doesn't come from the stuff in this world. It doesn't come from our friendships. It doesn't come from followers on Instagram or TikTok. It doesn't come from likes on social media. It doesn't come from being popular at school. It doesn't come from being good at sports. It doesn't come from being funny or being a musician or being an artist. It doesn't come from any of those things. Our joy and our hope only comes from one place, and my joy comes from Jesus Christ. Amen. In 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 8, it says, though you have not seen him, you love him. Though you do not now see him, You believe in him and rejoice with joy that is inexpressible and filled with glory. Everyone is in awe of you when you're happy when things aren't going so well. I mean, things aren't always going so well. But if we have our faith placed in the right position and on the right person, it doesn't matter if things don't go well. I've still got joy because my joy comes from the Lord. We think that, and we live in a world that says, I need to do this because it makes me happy. There's so many sins that have hidden under the umbrella of this makes me happy, right? Y'all, food made me happy, but it was also killing me. Things in this world can make me happy. I'd be really happy if I just like stole someone's Lamborghini and disappeared. I'm driving a Lamborghini, right? Look at me, I'm happy I have a Lamborghini. No, I'd be on the run, and they would find me quick. It'd be like there's a giant trying to fit in a Lamborghini out in the parking lot. Our joy comes from Him. We got to be ready to answer the peace that's in you. You're calm. The disciples are panicking when the storm hits, and they go to Jesus, and they're waking him up, and they say something. They don't, I want you to notice this. I read this in a book not too long ago. Okay, not too long ago means like 10 years ago. But anyway, the point is, when you get older, it's like everything runs together, and you're like, just the other day, I mean, 3 years ago, I get it, okay. But like I was reading this book several years ago, and it said this, like they didn't ask Jesus, "Can you fix it?" Like Bob the Builder. He didn't say, "Can you stop the storm?" What did they ask Jesus? Do you care if we perish? Because the compassion of Jesus always ignited the power of God. When he saw a crowd that needed fed, what did he do? He said, "What kind of food do you have?" And they just got, 5 loaves and 2 fish. And he's like, "All right, set everybody down. We're going to feed them." And Philip's like, "What? That's not even enough for everybody to have a snack." And he fed 5,000 people, and 12 baskets were left over. One basket for every doubting apostle. When his compassion saw the man with leprosy, what did he do? He touched him, something that hadn't happened to him in a long, long time. And what happened? The power of God showed up when his compassion was there. So they came to him and said, "Do you care?" He has peace in the middle of a boat that is being tossed everywhere all over this sea because of the storm, because he knows what's going to happen in his life. And he's like, "Oh, you guys have little faith. If we have the faith in the right spot, there's no panic. If your faith is in God and Him taking care of it no matter what, there's no panic." Because it's like Daniel standing in the middle of the lion's den. There's no panic because he knew that he was going to be okay. There was no panic in Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego as they faced the fiery furnace. What did they say? They said, "Our God will save us." And then they said something so amazing that I wish that I could have the chance to say one day. And say, "But even if He doesn't save us, we will not bow down to your God." Both of those people were not saved from the calamity in their life. They were saved in it. And in this world, he said, you're going to have trouble. But he said, take heart to overcome the world. You can make it. You can have peace. You're I am a dad. Okay. My daughter is 19, not much older than some of you in this room. And I've seen the struggle that your generation is going through. And I know that that there's so many things that you can choose to do in your life, so many groups of people that you can join. I love the fact that this generation wants a cause to get behind. That makes me hopeful for you. The generation right before you, what they call the millennials, I was youth minister for those people. And those people wanted to go on a mission trip every time. You know, they wanted to go somewhere. They wanted to go to camp. They want to do something. You guys want to change the world, and I'm thankful you do because we need it. But what we got to do is we got to focus on God and what He is wanting to do, and then we'll be fulfilled. Like when we're going through stuff in our life, we can do it on our own. We can, with our own power, climb the mountain. I preached about this just a week or so ago at our church, and I said this, and I said, we can climb the mountain on our own. We can say, I've trained, and I've prepared, and I struggled, and my own power, my own two hands, I've got to the top of the mountain. And at the top of that mountain, guess what? You're going to find another mountain you want to climb because it's not enough. When you climb the mountain with Jesus and He is with you the whole time, it doesn't matter if it's in the valley, or on the peak of the mountain, or wherever you are, if the things are crumbling or if a storm comes up, when Jesus is with you, everything's going to be all right, and it's always enough. One of the things I realized in my own life is that it's in the valley that the song is written that we sing on the mountaintop. Many years ago, I I don't know. I wasn't really planning to talk about this, but I'm telling you anyway. Many years ago, I got up on a Sunday morning, and I was one of those days I just didn't have it in me to preach. I've been preaching full time uh, since I was 23, and before that, I was in youth ministry back in 1992. 92, that's 30 years ago. Let me put this in perspective. I graduated high school in 91, so I'm like super young as a full time preacher in Virginia, 23 years old. Didn't have anything to say. I'd already preached the 5 sermons I'd written in college. The preachers are laughing because they know, right? There's 5 sermons I preached all over Alabama and Florida and West Virginia and Ohio. Those 5 sermons, they've already been used, and my 2 illustrations that came from Burger King, they've been used as well. Now it's time where I had to stand on my own feet and study the Word and get down to business. But that week, I didn't do it, and I got up and I got a shower and I laid back down super early because I was stressed. Laid back down in bed and I fell asleep for just a moment or two. Have you ever fallen asleep for just like a few minutes and had like the most vivid dream you've ever had? You've been there? I fall asleep this Sunday morning, and here's my dream. In my dream, I'm standing at the foot of this giant mountain, and the person in my dream, I don't know what they are, person, a voice, I don't know how dreams are. Like, oh, look at the butterfly. I mean, it's weird. Okay, dreams are weird. But in this dream, this person said, hey, climb the mountain with me. And I said, I can't. I'm afraid of heights. And they said, if you go with me, you will not be disappointed. And I don't know if you've ever tried to climb something or go somewhere in a dream. You feel like you just can't get there. And it's really because you're covered in blankets and you know what I'm saying? And I'm trying to climb this mountain. It's a big struggle. And all of a sudden, we're at the top of the mountain in no time at all. And then I look out on top of this mountain, and there's these rocks in the ocean, and the ocean is crashing on the rocks. And it's like one of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen in any dream. And I was like, wow, that is beautiful. And the person next to me said, see, if you'd have been stuck in your fear, you'd have never seen this. And then I woke up and I had my sermon. And I was apologetic the whole time, going, I don't know, it's not vision from the Lord. You know, I was like, oh, yeah. And I got cards from our people saying, don't ever apologize when God gives you a message. And that wasn't the voice of God. I don't know. It was a dream, right? And it was my struggle that I was in. But I'm going to fast forward from that moment in the 1900s to 2009. In 2008, my father and I went down to the Dominican Republic and we gave out toys. That's when he said, Felipe is not your dad, remember? Okay, not really, but you know what I mean. He messed up Spanish. And we met a group of kids in the middle of the road. And in the middle of this road, we met them. And I was like, why are we meeting them in the road and giving them their toys? They said, oh, they live on top of El Morito. And we didn't think you'd want to climb El Morito. And I was like, no, why we give it? I refuse. Next year, we'll come back. We're taking the toys to the top of the mountain. And so 2009, I talked to my friend who's done trek and all those kind of things. And I was like, you got to go with me because we got to climb a mountain in the Dominican Republic called El Morito. Now, it doesn't compare to trek. I mean, the mountains in the Rockies, I mean, that's, you know what I'm saying? But for this guy, it, it was tough. It was 5.5 hours of walking up and climbing these switchbacks that were created by the cattle on the side of this mountain. And it looked like little ridges, like stair steps, but they weren't stair steps because there were holes everywhere. 5.5 hours would start raining and it wouldn't rain. And I'm carrying on a backpack a projector, a DVD player, and Elf in Spanish. 5.5 hours. I get to the top of the mountain. Then we got to go down into the village. Going down into the village, it's raining, and water's going down this muddy thing, and I'm slipping and sliding. You can't grab the grass that's really long next to you because it's like razors when you grab it and cut your hands. It's like, ugh, you know what I'm saying? But there was this 87-year-old man with a machete and rubber boots that looked like he got over at the tractor supply, cutting stair steps into the side of the mountain, going, no problema, hermano. You know, he's just cutting this thing. I'm walking down these muddy steps because this old man is going to cut. Anyway, the next day, we give all these toys out. We watch Elf, and that's the best thing you've ever seen is the snowball fight with kids who've never seen it before, and they get silent when that last snowball is going to that one kid, like, and then hits him, and it erupts like it just won the World Series. It was awesome. And then we're going to walk back. And on the way back, there's this little hill. I'm getting somewhere. Y'all follow me on this story. There's this little bitty hill, and it's probably 25 more feet up. And my friend, who's now a missionary in Uganda, he said, Boss, you got to see this. And I was like, dude, I'm tired, my back hurts, and I've got to go down this mountain that we climbed yesterday. He said, trust me. He said, it's going to be worth it. And I climbed up those 10, 20 feet, and I'm going to tell you what I saw. I saw the beach in the Dominican Republic with giant rocks as the ocean smashed against it 10 years after I had that dream. It may not be the same. All I know is it taught me that I need to be ready to do whatever God calls me to do, to give an answer for the hope that He placed in my heart. To that little boy in Pennsylvania at 8 years old who wanted nothing more than to preach. And that's me. Same boy in Center, Kentucky who was in kindergarten and they had career day and everybody's going around. What are you going to be? There's like fireman, policeman, farmer, preacher. What? I just know that He's saying, listen, I got to be ready and willing to do the hard stuff. Because when He calls, we listen, we answer, and people are changed. Last story. I like telling stories. I was in college at Faulkner University in Montgomery, Alabama, and I had a friend named Lam Kim Lee from Hong Kong, and we joined the same social club together, and we were having a good time. He was probably the most incredible table tennis player. I didn't call it ping pong because when you're as good as he was, it's not ping pong, it's table tennis, right? He was amazing. He's one of those guys who can stand like 10 feet off of the table and smash it, and you just get a welt. And, you know what I'm saying? It's like he's really good. And one day, Lamb came to my door and he knocked on the door. I promise you, he's holding his Bible like this. And he says, "Is this true?" And I was like, "What?" He said, "Did a man named Jesus come to the earth and die for everything I've ever done?" And I said, "Come in. We got a lot to go over." And we sat down for a few hours and we just talked about this simple gospel story how Jesus came and he's the Son of God, the ever living God. He is God in the flesh, and that he died for him so that you could live one day forever. And I told him about the death, burial, and resurrection and how I did that through baptism. And he says, "I want that." And I said, "Awesome." So I called the wife of one of the uh, faculty members, and I said, 'cause she was from China, and I said, "I need to make sure I've communicated well," and hand him the phone, and he goes to town in his own language, which was a lot easier for him, right? And they're talking, and then he hands me the phone, and she said, "I don't know what you said, but he gets it. We'll see you at the church building in a few minutes." And we baptized him into Christ. I know he's in China now, and I know that he is on fire for the Lord. I don't know where he is or what he's doing, but who God placed in him, he's ready to give an answer. We've got to be ready to give an answer when your friend shows up at your door and says, "Is this true?" And you get to say, "Yes." But not only are we going to say this is true, we're going to do it in a manner that is loving. You can tell somebody they're wrong without destroying who they are. Y'all know that? I'm good at telling somebody they're wrong, especially if they're a Patriots fan. I mean, it's really easy. Just kidding. Okay. Okay. No, it's. I mean, like in all things, like how many y'all ladies when you go shopping, you've been to where's your store? I don't know what stores they have in the West. What's a good place to get clothes you like to go? Where do you like to go? Hot Topic. Yeah, okay. My daughter loves that store. Okay. What like but if they have a sale at the store you like to go to, do you text your friends and tell them? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so if you went to a store that had a okay, if we went to a store that had a sale, like if my wife went somewhere and she's like, "I'm at Kohl's and they have a sale," she's texting 12 people, right? If you found that they were giving away stuff, like I had a guy call me one time during the pandemic and said, "Hey, the milk company had just parked this milk truck over at this restaurant, and you can just pull up there and it's open and you can have all the milk you want." And I'm like, "I don't know if you tell me the truth, officer." My friend's in the police officer. And I still didn't believe him. I was like, "Is this entrapment?" Anyway, I was like, "Are you a police officer?" He's like, I'm a police officer and it's free. But you go over there. I'm like telling everybody. I'm calling my friends. I'm like, "How many gallons of milk do you want me to pick up while you're there?" And then I pulled the parking lot. I'm the only person there. There's this truck. And I was feeling guilty. I waited till somebody else showed up and got into the truck and started. I was like, "Okay, we're getting milk." You know what I'm saying? We get excited about silly things like that. You have the answer to the world's problem if you know Jesus. You need to be ready to tell it every chance you get. You don't have to have a master's degree. You don't have to have a bachelor's degree in Bible to tell the story. You just have to know that you love him and you know what he's done for you and you're excited to tell someone about it. That's what you need. He died for me, he died for you, and he promised me I can live forever if I just stay faithful to him. Be ready. I'm just going to give you this challenge, and then I'm walking off stage. The challenge is simple: study His Word, live His Word, be His hands and feet, and be ready because your opportunity to tell your story is coming. It's on its way. Be ready. Thank you so much.